Debby will quickly become a hurricane later today and could bring catastrophic impacts to portions of the southeast United States. And this tropical wave moving through the Caribbean for the week ahead could be the next area for potential tropical development. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. Nice to see you on a Sunday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, I have all the newest information on Debby as it continues to strengthen, moving up the west coast of Florida. We'll talk about the latest impacts, the latest track, all about Debby coming up. And we do have this tropical wave we've been watching just east of the Windward Islands. Now a low potential development with this wave as it moves to the Caribbean for the week ahead. So we'll cover both things, I promise you here. Of course, love to hear from you guys. If you have a specific question about the forecast, you can drop in the comment section below where you're viewing from. And of course, love to know what the weather has been like. We're going to deep dive starting into Debby right now. So, latest information, we've got the 2 p.m. advisory for us here. Winds are now 65 miles an hour. Okay, Debby has strengthened quite rapidly on this Sunday afternoon. This is the enhanced satellite imagery presentation. I'm going to throw on the radar data for us here. And friends, again, we're going to take our time and go into all aspects of what's happening with Debby now and the potential down the road. Again, winds are 65, moving north-northwest at 13, pressures down to 992 millibars. The ovals that you see are the potential wind impacts, okay? When we start to see those purples, those are going to be tropical storm force winds, and then the potential close to the eye of some hurricane conditions down the road, because Debby is forecast to become a Category 1 hurricane before landfall. And you can see that, and that landfall is expected to be on Monday morning. Before we get too far, I want to get into the watches and warnings. Now, there's all different kinds of watches and warnings for the west coast of Florida and some other areas. We'll start off with a hurricane warning from the Suwannee River up to the Ocklawackney River. We also have a hurricane watch from the Ocklawackney River to the Indian Pass, and then from Suwannee River south to Yankeetown. That then becomes a tropical storm warning from the Ocklawackney River to the Indian Pass. Same area. Again, you're going to see some spots with both tropical storm watches and then hurricane watches or warnings, and vice versa. Watches means, of course, that there's the potential for that kind of situation in your area, be it a tropical storm or a hurricane, and a warning means that those conditions are likely. So under hurricane warnings for the area in red, that's where we expect there to be hurricane conditions. But that tropical storm warning is in effect for the dry Tortugas as well, and then from the Suwannee River all the way down to East Cape Sable. So through the southwest part of the state. Then we have a tropical storm watch for the Indian River Pass to Mexico Beach, and then actually for the Georgia and the South Carolina coastlines from the mouth of the St. Mary's River to the South Santee River in South Carolina. So that's the latest watches and warnings. On this Sunday afternoon, watching again these banding features. Now, obviously, the peninsula of Florida is on the east dirty side of this system. And as a matter of fact, we actually do have a tornado watch that's in effect for almost all of the state, minus the central and the western portion of the Panhandle and the far southeast sides as well. And that's going to come back on during this loop. That's in effect until 8 p.m. We've seen several tornado warnings already in effect, and we've seen these spiraling bands come in with some very gusty winds. So let's take a look at the surface observations for you right now. Those are going to pop on first, temperatures, and then the winds. And you're going to see very consistent winds in places like Clearwater and Tampa and St. Petersburg, 30, 35, even 40 mile an hour plus wind gusts. So very strong winds here all the way back down into southwest Florida. Again, nice little 45 mile an hour wind there near the Venice area, South Venice. So up and down the coastline, very heavy rain, flooding conditions, several inches, 30, 35, 40, even 50 mile an hour breezes from time to time. And some of these spiraling bands along the east coast of the state have also brought those same kind of conditions. It's a wet, squally day. Isolated tornadoes are likely as these storms continue to spiral in. There's inherent rotation, again, on the eastern side of Debby. Now, before we get too far, into the forecast, the first thing I want to show you is the track from the Hurricane Center as of the 2 p.m. intermediate advisory. Again, you see the stats on the bottom of your screen. Debby is forecast to become a hurricane, and now the National Hurricane Center has Debby becoming a hurricane of 90-mile-per-hour winds before landfall on Monday. I think, friends, you're going to be teetering on a Category 1, potentially Category 2 hurricane. Now, we're going to get into the details of what's going to be happening, obviously, at landfall, but also for the southeast United States as well in this video, because Debby is forecast to really slow up. And this is the catastrophic part of the potential of Debby and the rainfall that it could bring to portions of the southeast United States. Before we get any further, I do want to mention a few programming notes here at Meteo Mundo. First thing is, after this video, you'll look for our live radar to return. We'll be tracking Tropical Storm Debby, live radar, live satellite, live winds, updated tropical tracks on Debby as well, and of course the latest on that tropical wave, so look for that. I will also be back on live here at Meteo Mundo tomorrow morning, tracking Debby as more than likely a hurricane by then, obviously, making landfall in the Big Bend area. Now, still we don't have a determined time yet, so have those notifications on, but it is going to be pretty early in the morning. So I'll join you live here at Meteo Mundo, just like I did with Beryl when it was making landfall in several locations across the Caribbean and Texas. Be tracking Debby for you live here at Meteo Mundo for the landfall. Of course, love to hear from you guys. If you have a picture or video, even from what's happened in your area right now in Florida or other areas, send it to me at mymeteomundo@gmail.com. Love to show you those in these videos and obviously during our live cast as well. And you can see all the other handles for all the other social media platforms that we are on. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to Meteo Mundo if you haven't as of yet. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. And thank you for finding ways to support me here at Meteo Mundo as well. Okay, let's get back into it. So again, the hurricane reconnaissance aircraft have been in and out of Debby over the last 24 hours. The mid-level circulation is just to the north of the low-level circulation, but there are signs that that is beginning to consolidate, and Debby has already pumped up to winds of 65 miles an hour. There is still the potential that Debby could rapidly strengthen later this evening and overnight. I mean, again, friends, we are well less than 24 hours from landfall, and we could rapidly get a high-end Category 1 or even a low-end Category 2 hurricane. There is a little bit of drier air off towards the west, but obviously all the land is on the eastern side of this system, and that's where we have the heaviest rainfall, the squally weather here. And for the entire peninsula, we're going to have the potential for some isolated and nuisance flooding, 4, 6, maybe 8 inches of rain, the isolated tornado threat, and certainly enough gusty winds to, knock around some unsecured objects in your yards, or to maybe even knock down some trees and have some power issues as well. Notice that there's not a lot of lightning at this point in time. Let's go back over to the satellite presentation here. I'm going to drop off the radar. And again, you can see that flare up. I'm going to switch over to the Viz, and then I'm just going to drop off our wind radii right now. So again, it's a very classic system. There is, again, a slight bit of drier air on the far southwest side. So it's not truly symmetric as of yet, but if that mid-level circulation can coalesce with the low-level center of circulation, more than likely we're going to get a big blow-up of thunderstorms near that center, and that could be the beginning of rapid intensification of Debby. But again, obviously, we'll continue to have extremely elevated surf and sea conditions, a storm surge threat, and all the other impacts that I expected. Then down the road, as Debby begins to move inland into North and Northeast Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, this is where the very slow, erratic movement of Debby could produce some extremely heavy rainfall. Let's go back over here to show you the water vapor imagery. And again, we're just going to take our time and look at everything I mentioned here on this one. Greens and blues are high moisture content. Red is drier air. A little bit of that had been ingested in, but over just the last few hours, right, doesn't Debby look more pronounced? There also might have been just a slightest shift towards the west, just a little jog. But that being said as well, I think if a consolidation happens, it might actually push Debby a little bit back towards the east. I don't expect there to be much of a change, and I'll show you all the models, but all of them are right in this area here, okay? From basically the Indian Pass, Port St. Joe area, choppy on over towards Apalachicola Bay, and then north and west of Cedar Key. That's where all of them have landfall occurring here in the Big Bend area of Florida early tomorrow. Let's get into the models. And again, we're going to get into the Caribbean here in just a minute, I promise for you here. We'll start off actually with the HRRR model. Again, our high resolution model here at Meteo Mundo. So I'm going to bring that on. And this is going to give us a good idea of the movement of Debby over the next 24 hours. Then we'll look at the GFS, winds, all of that. We'll take a look at all that information for you here, guys. Okay, so again, this model updates every hour. So it's great when we're talking about a storm system like this close to landfall, because we're really getting some updated information for us here out of this. Obviously, Debby looks very impressive, a classic Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane moving on shore, continuing to bring the banding features and the opportunity for severe weather across the peninsula of Florida through this Sunday and into Monday morning. And then again, you'll start to see the slower movement as Debby gets into southeast Georgia and portions of coastal South Carolina. So let's back this up and we'll take it kind of hour by hour for us here. Again, wet, sloppy day, Tampa up towards Orlando on the I-4 corridor, even up towards Jacksonville. We'll start to see Debby here on the HRRR model really begin to wrap up as we get just past midnight. And so landfall on the HRRR model with Debby would occur maybe around 4 or 5 in the morning, 5 to 6 at the latest here. And again, you're looking at right in the heart of where that hurricane warning is, here in the Big Bend, near the Perry area. Moving in as more than likely a Category 1 or higher end Category 2. I want you to notice all the heavy rain that will already be ahead of Debby to the north and to the east. And as that center of circulation slows down because the steering currents really begin to stall, now you're looking at this potential catastrophic rainfall for portions of southeast Georgia and South Carolina. To be determined where Debby might set up and where the heaviest rain may be. But all of the models really slowed Debby down here starting early on Tuesday through basically the remainder of the week. So this is a little bit broader perspective of that HRRR model. Again, you can see that nice little wrap up. Let's go back to the beginning and throw on the winds here. So let's put on our winds and loop this up and see what the HRRR model is telling us. Again, we're still going to have the strongest side on the east side. Now, this is also going to come along with the highest storm surge potential. There's a 6 to 10 foot storm surge potential just along the center of Debby and to the east as it moves inland. Obviously, with the counterclockwise winds, you're going to have the water piling up on the eastern side of Debby as it moves up to the north. So let's take a look at these winds right before landfall here. So I'm going to pop those on. Let's bring that back to where we want it to be. And you can see that these winds are certainly hurricane strength. If I back it up even a little bit more here. So on the HRRR model, we do have a Category 1 hurricane, okay? And that's the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. And we've talked about this, guys, that one thing the models really still don't have a handle on is this rapid intensification with sea surface temperatures in the northeast Gulf of Mexico that are about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius, okay? So is the HRRR probably underdoing the potential for Debby? Absolutely. Could it be 90 or 95 before landfall? It's a possibility. Our friends in the Big Bend area, even places like Tallahassee and Perry and Live Oak, need to prepare for hurricane conditions. Even into South Georgia, like Thomasville, need to prepare for potential hurricane conditions. Gainesville, it would be very, very close. So hurricane conditions are likely inland. Debby will have some forward speed, again, probably low double digits, 12, 13 miles an hour, something like that. But again, landfall really early tomorrow morning. That's the HRRR. Let's go over to our GFS model. Since we're already on winds, we'll just stay there. Take me just 1 second to loop this up, guys. Again, if you haven't liked the video yet, I'd appreciate a like. That'd be very kind of you right now. help support the channel. You want to keep that information flowing. Someone said that in one of the other videos, and I thought that was a great way to put it. You want to keep the information flowing, hit the like button. And I have to say, I agree with that. On the GFS, again, we're pushing hurricane strength, obviously, on the eastern side. So the GFS has Debby as a hurricane, again, moving in. That's 3 a.m. Looks like the eye comes on shore a little bit later, a couple of hours later, probably around 8 a.m. here on the GFS model. But notice it's the exact same location, and it's actually the center line from the hurricane center. I'm going to show you plenty of other models as well, but we're all very clustered. We're now at the point, guys, where I'm not going to be showing you the ensemble products and all of that because we've really honed down on where Debby is going. Now it's about the timing and it's about the impacts because some of those could be extremely significant. We'll take a look at the HAFS A model. This is what's called the summary panel, but you get the idea. So this is 4 panels of the same model at the same time. This would be 5 a.m. and you can see that minimal pressure on the HAFS A on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, 985. That's a Cat 1, maybe Cat 2. You can see those winds up to 75 knots or so. Again, Cat 1 hurricane strength. You can see the reflectivity on the bottom right of your screen is very similar to what we had from the GFS and the HUR. This is the HAFS B model, right? It's about the same location, about the same kind of strength. HAFS B, 98.5, 985.5, excuse me, for the pressure. Again, the winds right around the same strength, maybe a little bit weaker, but still into a Category 1 hurricane, and that reflectivity looks relatively similar. Here's the HMON for tomorrow morning, 983, same location. So I've just shown you 5 different models, all Cat 1 to low-end Cat 2, same location, same timing. So I think we've pretty much zeroed in on this as far as track. The big question will be just how rapidly Debby is going to intensify late on this Sunday and into Monday morning. Let's get into the impacts. This is going to be significant. You have a storm surge potential of 6 to 10 feet from the Ochlockonee River down towards the Suwannee River. As a matter of fact, there's a storm surge warning right now from the middle of Longboat Key down here northward to the Indian Pass, and that does include Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay's where storm surge potential is occurring now as Debby's center is still parallel or slightly south. As Debby moves north, that should be mitigated a little bit, and then it becomes the Nature Coast in the Big Bend area of Florida. But these are significant potentials for storm surge. 5 to 8 feet between Suwannee River and Yankeetown. Still 4 to 5 feet towards Indian Pass, and even up through portions of Georgia and South Carolina now. For the mouth of the St. Mary's River to the South Santee River, you have a 2 to 4 foot potential storm surge. And I promise you that could change because it's still very much up in the air whether the center of Debby will emerge back off of the coastline or stay inland, and that will impact the potential for the storm surge. Here is why we've got this big rainfall problem, okay? The steering flow starting late tomorrow into most of next week collapses. And Debby can't really go anywhere. If you notice these flags, guys, it's pointing where the winds are coming from. So these are northeast winds, okay, through the Carolinas and Georgia, and they're strong northeast winds. And they basically stop Debby or have a very erratic movement. This is why the rainfall potential could be extremely high in these areas. And the Hurricane Center has used the words historical and catastrophic, okay? Official messaging from the Hurricane Center. So let's get into the rainfall potential for us here. I'm going to show you the GFS model first. And again, I'm going to drop off some of this information because it's just a little bit easier to see everything here. So give me 1 second to do so. So this is the GFS model over the next 5 days. I'm going to bottom line this for you. Anywhere that you see pinks and yellows and reds, that's the biggest concern as far as flooding goes, because these numbers are going to be extremely high. So let me clear off that data, and now we can start looking at the potential rainfall. So look, even here in the Big Bend, when Debby has some forward speed, there's the potential to get up to a foot of rain in some of these spots. Cross City, Perry, towards Lake City. And it just continues, guys. Valdosta, Waycross. And I want to be clear about something. The GFS model on my weather computer top ends at 14 inches for the time frame, okay? There will be locally higher amounts than this. But I want you to notice how widespread more than a foot of rain, and I promise you, we're going to look at a couple of other graphics, the Hurricane Center has way more than this, okay? But I just want you to notice how widespread some of this 1 and yes 2 feet of rain could be between Monday and Friday here. Even up as far north as Wilmington and Jacksonville, North Carolina, 7-8 inches plus. Here's what I would say, and it's really crappy to say this, but for places like Charleston and Savannah and anywhere in these yellows, you should consider these numbers as I show you these to be the minimums that you could see over the week ahead. All right. This is the European model. Next 7 days. Take myself off camera. I want you to look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. The maximum on the European model was 17 inches, and that's going to be in southeast Georgia, close to Savannah, okay? So on the European model, we've got 17 inches and a lot of more than 12 inches of rain, especially for southeast Georgia and portions of South Carolina. Wave heights, they're going to be an issue. Obviously, we're kicking up the sea conditions here in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to kick up the surf and sea conditions and bring that storm surge potential to portions of the Georgia and South Carolina coastline. Again, obviously, boaters want to be in port in both of these areas for us here. For the rest of the Caribbean, and we'll get, again, more into the forecast, I promise you, this tropical wave moving through will freshen up our easterly trades. We're going to have some 25 and 30 mile an hour winds. We're going to have some sea conditions approaching 6, 7, and 8 feet in the Caribbean as this next tropical wave moves through. So let's break down in a couple of slides Debby's potential impacts. I'm going to start with Florida because it is a big difference between what Florida could see and what Georgia and South Carolina could see. So for Florida, tropical storm conditions are highly likely for all the western part of the state the remainder of today and into Monday. Hurricane conditions obviously are likely and more than likely are going to happen in the Big Bend area on our Monday. 4 to 8 inches of rain is going to be fairly widespread. But believe it or not, as Debby slows down in the far north and northeast part of the state, they could get 18 inches of rain through Friday. It's not going to all fall tomorrow and Tuesday, but kind of on the tail end of Debby. If it just hangs out near the Georgia coastline, close enough on the southern periphery, 1.5 feet of rain is possible. Again, that storm surge of 6 to 10 feet for the Big Bend area, the tornadoes, and the waterspouts. For the southeast United States, I want to be very clear about this, friends. The wording that you see on your screen is official messaging from the National Hurricane Center. This is not my interpretation. They use these terms, that the rainfall could be historical and catastrophic. For southeast Georgia and South Carolina, 10 to 20 inches of rain, locally up to 30 inches. 2.5 feet of rain is possible if Debby just stalls out like it could through Friday, okay? Extremely dangerous river rises, extremely dangerous localized urban and rural flooding. A few tornadoes are still possible with some of those spiraling bands coming on shore, and obviously dangerous surf and sea conditions at the coast. Look, friends, please check in with your local National Weather Service offices for official messaging in your area. It's going to be vital in these areas to keep up to date with that real-time local messaging, and your National Weather Service office in your area will cover you in those regards. But if you live in these spots, southeast Georgia, South Carolina, you need to start preparing for the potential for some extremely heavy, life-threatening rainfall, and the possibility that travel could become very, very impeded as well, beginning tomorrow, especially into Tuesday through Friday, okay? So that's the situation there. And obviously it's not great news with the potential rainfall coming out of Debby. So I think we've buttoned up Debby pretty well for now. Obviously we've got the live stream coming your way later on this Sunday, and then I will be live starting early on Monday morning with the landfall of Debby in the Big Bend of Florida. Let's get into the rest of the forecast. My friends, throughout the Caribbean and the Bahamas, We're going to start off with what's happening right now in the Lesser Antilles. Mentioned this tropical wave yesterday. Didn't expect it to have a high-end chance of development in the short term. Thought maybe the Hurricane Center would talk more about this early to midweek, but they went ahead and put on a 10% chance of development in the next 48 hours and then a 20% chance of development in the next 7 days. Look, this wave has an opportunity to become our next tropical system mid to late week. I just think that it's probably not going to really try and wrap up until at least the Central Caribbean or maybe the Western Caribbean. It's racing right now at around 20 miles an hour. It has brought some nice heavy rain to portions of the Lesser Antilles for today. There's actually a flood watch in effect for Barbados at the hour. I'm going to just drop off this yellow area. It's a little bit easier to see. I'll bring on the visible satellite imagery as well. And again, you can see this wave making quick progress off towards the west. So for Martinique and St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, all healthy opportunities for some good downpours. 25 to 50 millimeters of rain widespread, that's 1 to 2 inches, but locally maybe 75, 100 millimeters of rain. 3 to 4 inches of rain is possible as this wave bursts its way through. We're going to pick up additional showers later today from Dominica north, including our friends in Guadeloupe and Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bartholomew, Anguilla, all with the opportunity with these brisk easterlies to pick up some showers and maybe even an isolated storm. Now, is it going to be as prominent as areas to the south? No, but again, that moisture is building to the north, and you can see that on this infrared imagery. We're going to get the same situation in Puerto Rico and our friends in the Virgin Islands, the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, where again, moisture quality comes up, rain chances will be higher. I know a lot of you guys appreciate that, as hot and as steamy as it has been, but there will be at least, especially for Martinique South, St. Vincent, Barbados, areas to the south, the opportunity for some too much rain in one location too fast. Some localized flooding is possible. That rain will hit Nueva Esparta. It's going to be great to see our friends in the ABC Islands with a better opportunity for rain coming up here in the next couple of days. We'll have isolated showers developing ahead of it for Hispaniola and off towards Jamaica. We still have some rain on the tail end of this and a few storms from Debby for western Cuba, trying to eat down towards the Cayman Islands. I've seen a few showers in the far eastern bands develop here in the Bahamas for today. Let's bring on the winds. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good thing to pop back on here real quick. You can see that even towards West Palm Beach, they've had some winds up to around 40 miles an hour. Nothing too gusty in the Bahamas, but our friends let me know Androstown did have a 26 mile an hour wind gust, but you know, obviously we're still seeing kind of the far eastern periphery of those squall lines there in the northwest side of the Bahamas. And it's been a quieter day overall in the Yucatan through portions of Central America. Some storms just beginning to develop down in Costa Rica and in Panama. So again, this area with a 20% chance of potential tropical development. Let's take a look at the model here. I'm going to bring back up the GFS. Just give me just 1 second here, guys. And I'm going to extend this out over the week ahead and loop it up. Going to take off the formation zone. So again, fast moving wave. Next few days, good downpours for the Leeward Islands, ABC Islands. Late Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, good opportunity for rain there. And you can see that this wave just gets a little bit better organized in general once it passes the ABC Islands. We'll get some rain as we head towards the mid to late part of the week for Hispaniola, towards Jamaica, and then right here towards the end, we'll see if there's a consolidation here in the northwest side of the Caribbean. Anything beyond that, we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Tomorrow, we'll get into what some of the models are showing, but they're just kind of beginning to run on this, and they're so far all over the place. What I'm more confident in saying right now is that this wave is going to bring a good, fresh wind, a fair amount of rain, and the opportunity in the central and the western Caribbean to begin to ramp up again. Let's take a look at the winds out of this. These are surface winds. And again, even ahead of this, you're going to see we're going to have some winds in that 25, 30 mile an hour range, all right? But again, notice there's no consolidation for a true center of circulation here in the shorter term over the next few days. But towards the end of the week, things get a little bit tighter here on the GFS model. Like I said, it'll just take a little bit here for this to fully load up, but I want to make sure you guys are aware that these easterlies are going to be strong. Sea conditions are going to be elevated. I already showed you that, maybe 6 to 8 foot waves in some spots. And then right towards the end here in the northwest side of the Caribbean is where we could start to see, kind of almost right over Jamaica right now, the opportunity. Now, it's still moving very rapidly. It's still not that intense, but right here at the very end, you know, we kind of start to see a bit of a consolidation right there towards western Cuba. But could it be down here? Absolutely. Could it still be way up here? That's a possibility as well. That is for discussions down the road. And obviously, friends, that's not the only tropical wave. It's August. I mentioned it. The main development region of the Atlantic is open for business, and more tropical waves are going to be coming out. This is going to be a very active August across the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean. So obviously, friends, all eyes will be on Debby. Again, watch for our 24/7 radar to return here shortly, and I will be back on live early Monday morning as we track Debby together, making landfall in the Big Bend area of Florida. Again, thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing. If you have a specific question about the forecast, just drop it in the comment section below. Love to hear from you guys. You have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you very soon, early tomorrow morning, right here at Meteo Mundo.